Welcome. Trade Today, we're going to talk about Tesla here today. And oddly enough, if you watched the morning show, it felt like a little bit of a nothing burger initially. Tesla very mixed off of the open. Even in the aftermarket, they beat on the top line. There were some issues with revenue and then a bit of a mixed board when you talked about the earnings call. So there wasn't a heck of a lot to look at. I know Sean and myself both sat out most of the morning. And as a matter of fact, despite what you're going to see in this chart here today, which is longs in the second part of the session, all I was saying in the morning show was, I want to short the 800 level. I don't see anything until we get to 800. I want to short 800. And it feels like we're going to get to 800. I kept saying it over and over again. And I was asked on the show, if you're so convinced it's going to get to 800, why don't you just long? And at the time, it was about 789, 790. I'm going to get into why I wasn't thinking about that. Now, why does 800 matter? And we're always going to go to the higher time frame. If you have a quick look at what Tesla's doing on the daily chart, made a nice bottom here off 600, but it's been in this channel below $800 for a while now. We've been struggling to get out of here. You can see the resistance has been sort of a little bit lower highs. We finally climbed above that 750 on the earnings play. And then you get that 800 line, which has just been huge resistance. That's why it mattered so much. Now we get to what was going on here. And it was right about this time that someone was saying to me, why don't you just go long into the 800 level? And what I simply said was, it's one thing to think the stock is going to get to a price, but what's the structure of the long trade am I going to make there? And all I was thinking about was, if my support is probably back into a 75 or an 80 level, am I going to punch long at an 89? Thinking that at the time I was expecting to be short at 99 and thinking a $5 retracement's coming in. So that's not even one-to-one risk to reward. Doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to put it on. So it's one thing to think you're getting to a price. It's another thing to execute. However, once we got to this level, you get to 790 and there's your pullback that was at $15 and that was that range. But when it actually gets to the 800 level, get into how ridiculous this was in terms of a consolidation. When we retested this high here, what I said in the second part of my answer was, the breakout style trade gives you a reasonable risk. You can risk back to 90s. You can risk back to 89, that consolidation level. So I end up taking the breakout style trade. This is more reasonable because I'm really only risking about $1 or $2. I play that into 95s. It then tries to retest and dip. Well, guess what? It does not break back below that 789 area. We're able to hold that. So I'm reloading that trade with, again, tight risk because I think at this point it's going to pull back at 800. I scalp it in front of 95, got trailed out there, and at this point, I'm sitting on the offer at $799.50 for a good 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. And the longer it consolidates without breaking 99, I'm talking 98s, there were sellers galore. It got very, very crowded. You're just constantly seeing size pile in on the offer, on the offer, on the offer, getting filled. But it won't break 99 to give you that really tight stop short trade. The longer that happened, I was sitting there saying, you can't take this short because if you now get it at like 99.50 or 99.70, forget about it. By that point, everyone is loaded in at 98, and if you take that fill, you're just going to get run over. That's when I decided I need to cancel that order and accept the fact that this was just a jailbreak long. So we had one long trade with a simple structure, and then it turned into an 800 break. Now, I got scaled out of this trade, so I got trailed out of this trade at 805. I should have held on to it. But what I'm going to give you here is Sean had the break from 800 and actually held it to 815. So if you look at the breadth of this move, after you miss out in the open, we talked about how we did miss on Tesla this morning. The breadth of this move, once it got to the second portion of the day, was this 790 area into 815. And that consisted of the morning range breakout, the consolidation, and then the break to that 800 level, and then a break of 800 till it gets to 815. Those are two trades to the long side that you could have had in there without being a part of the early morning move. Without question, long at the open was the way to go in Tesla. But you've got to ask yourself, once you've missed out on a trade, can you structure something else? In this case, we're able to structure a couple of trades to the upside, and they gave you a boomer here. Tesla, one of the strongest movers in the entire market today. You had to find a way to take advantage of it. I'm just happy I didn't short it. Today's trade of the day brought to you, as always, by Day Trade the World. You want to day trade like this with these executions, good place to start.